Hi YouTubers, today we're making drunken cheese. I've filled up my pot with 11 litres of milk and buttermilk culture. So there's just the normal full cream milk works the best. Instead of buying culture, I ended up buying some buttermilk, cultured buttermilk. I find that Coles doesn't have it, but Woolworths does. Just look on the back of the packet and you'll see starter culture. So that means that it's already got the mesophilic culture. So when making cheese, it's really important to sterilise all your equipment. I've gone off and bought the cheese kit from Mad Millie. I've used the iodofer, which is a sterilizer. So I've put it in a big pot, I've sterilised the pot, I've sterilised all the utensils that I'm going to be using. Give it a good stir as it's heating up. Now remember, I've got my milk in there, I've got my buttermilk, which has the culture in it as well, and it'll give it a bit more flavour as well. Got a little helper here today. Now as we heat it up, we want the temperature to go to about 31 degrees. 31 degrees is the best temperature for bacteria to grow. As it heats up to the 31 degree temperature, the bacteria multiply every 20 minutes. So let's go. So once the milk comes up to 31 degrees, I will cover it with a lid and I'll let it ripen for about 30 to 40 minutes. Let those cultures grow. So we're at our temperature now. We're reached 31 degrees. As you can see, we're at 31 degrees. We're going to put the lid on and let it sit for a good 40 minutes. So I've got some distilled water and I'm adding 3 tablets per quantity. 2, 3, there you go. And that's the rennet, so that's dissolving. That won't take long to dissolve, it'll take a couple of minutes. Every tablet requires 4 litres or 1 gallon. So I'm adding my rennet to my mix. You've got to make sure that it's constantly stirring. Make sure that you always got your utensils in sterile water. Just adding the rennet. Slowly. Make sure that you don't make many bubbles. Now add my calcium chloride, and calcium chloride is just replacing the calcium from the pasteurizing and homogenizing process. So we want 6 mils. Beautiful, as you can see, 6 mils. I've got a little gauge on here so I know. I'll add that slowly as well. Now the next thing I'll add will be the annatto. So the annatto will give the cheese a good colour and creaminess. So I'll give it about 10 drops. It's okay. And already I can see the colour change in the milk. So I'll let the milk sit for another 40 minutes until I can check whether the curd breaks. So we've had it sitting there for a good 40 minutes and the curd is actually lifting off. So when I use a knife, I can actually see that the curd's set really nicely. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the curd I'm going to cut it straight up and down. And then I'm going to cut it the other way and then vertically in 2 directions. So when I'm finished with that, I'll let the curd heal, and the moisture should start to come out of it. So we've let the curds heal, and now we're going to start mixing it up. For the next 45 minutes, we're going to raise the temperature to 39 degrees. So the temperature has officially become 39 degrees, which is the temperature that we want to leave it at till the 40-minute mark is up. At this point, I will strain the cheese through my cheesecloth and make sure that I get every curd in there. After that, I will put it back on my double boiler and keep the cheese at a 39 degree temperature mark. So I've turned over the cheese 3 times at 10-minute intervals, like so. This is called the cheddaring process, where the whey is exerted out of the curd. So I've poured the whey into the container. As you can see, both halves are in there, and I've started draining the curd. I'm going to cut it up and you'll see the next step. So at this point you want to cut them into small fingers, and they'll be perfect for crumbling later on with the cheese. So I'm getting 1.5 tablespoons of artisan's salt, which you get in the packet. Right. Next process is to mill the curd with the salt through it. So milling it means just grabbing it and just breaking the curds up, just like so. Combining that salt all the way through the cheese. Making sure that there's no big lumps as well. Mill the cheese, which looks like this now, and I'm gonna pack it in my cylinder. Now my cylinder is something I just got from Bunnings. It's about 160 mils wide. I put holes in the bottom, as you can see, and I put holes in the side, so the whey's got somewhere to go. I'm going to line it with the cheesecloth, and here we go. Filling it in now. Kind of looks a bit like this. A little bit like scrambled eggs. So I'm just going to cover it up. So. Beautiful. My next step is to put my top part on. So, goes in, it's one, little flat spacer, That one goes on the bottom, that one goes on top like that. And this part too. Perfect. My next trick is to get the board. I put it on the board, like so. It's already started running, which is good. It might be a little bit milky at the start, but it'll be clear soon. And then my next one, I'll put that on top like that. I'll use 4 of these on each side, as you can see. And then I will squeeze them tight for about 40 minutes, and then I'll come back to it, I'll turn it over, and then I'll repress it overnight. So as you can see, I've got it in between 2 blocks of wood, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 presses in there. So each side is getting the equal amount of pressure. In between, the moisture's coming out through the holes, and we'll just leave that like that for the next 40 minutes until we turn it over. Alright? Make sure you leave it on a bit of an angle as well, so it's got somewhere to drip. So I'm back, and we're going to do the first turn. So I'll undo the press, which is quite easy. And they just pop off, like so. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take the top off. That over here. I've put a little plate on there as a bit of a spacer. Up there. And the bonus with this thing is that you can just take it out of the bottom. Bingo. See? Nice and easy. It's a little bit rough around the edges at the moment, but once we press it on the other side, it'll be nice and flat and smooth. Beautiful. Looking fantastic. Just putting the cheese back into the wrap and putting it back into the container for further pressing. This time we're going to press it at a greater pressure at around about 30 or 40 kilos. That's looking good. So we're back the next day. We're removing the cheese from the press. So here we go. Now I'm going to cut off all the rough bits with a knife. Pretty good. All right. So we've got a bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon from a winery that I work at. We'll soak the cheese in the red wine for up to 3 days. And then after, we'll do the drying process, and then after that, we'll wax it. So here we go. Just pour it in. And we'll just soak it. I'll turn it over a couple of times every day. I'll just show you the So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to soak these bamboo sticks in some boiling hot water to sterilise them. I just boil the kettle and straight in. Shouldn't take too long. And we're going to poke them into the cheese so the red wine can go into the cheese at the same time. The bamboo sticks should absorb the red wine and it should infuse into the middle of the cheese. So I'm just putting these sticks into the red wine, like so, and I'll do it all the way around, and I'll do a fair few of them, all right? Back after about a week of drying. Cheese has dried out really well. It's got a really nice colour to it. I'll just show you. That beautiful burgundy colour. Absolutely sensational. So we're going to wax it today. By waxing it, we're sealing in all the flavours. We're going to let it do its business inside the wax, and should be great. I've patted it dry a little bit with a bit of paper towel. I've always consistently used sanitizer on my hands every time I've touched it. That's why it hasn't grown any mold on it in the last week, which is fantastic. I've rubbed it down with a bit of salt to draw out more moisture, because remember it was soaking for 3 days in red wine. I've chosen to wax the cheese because it's easier to store, and no, it doesn't dry out as much, and I keep that beautiful moisture in there. So I've put the wax in my pot. Just remember, wax is highly flammable. It's advised to just slowly melt it. Once it's melted, I will put it into a container and I'll wax it. So I'll show you that process in a minute. Okay. Hi guys, so we're back again after about 7 months. We're here to try this red wine cheddar. I've cut it in half. It's nice and sturdy. It's got good curd compression. Smells really good. Smells like red wine. I'll just have a crack at it. As you can see, it cuts up really nice and thin. Beautiful. Got a really good red wine flavour, but not overpowering. Good cheddar, nice and sharp. So if you'd like to do this recipe, have fun. I've guided you through the whole process, and the final result is fantastic. Thank you very much for watching the video, and see you on the next one.